All right, I'd like to call the meeting for Monday, April 26, 2021 to order. And I would like to determine a quorum. So please, as I read your name, say that you are here and that you received the materials that were sent. Marvin?
President, I received the materials that was sent.
Thank you. Ellen?
Yes, I'm here and I received the materials that were sent.
Augie?
I am here and I received the materials.
Terry?
Yes, I'm here. I received the material, and a point of order. My name is showing up with Allen's. I don't know what that means. It says Terry and Allen Feldbaum.
Is your wife's name Terry, Ellen?
You're muted, Alan. It is, yes.
Not only is he, oh, he's alive, he's moving. I thought he
He's
was
still
dead.
muted. Okay, we're in the middle of roll call, so
Yeah.
let's get through the roll call. Anne, you said you are here.
I'm here and but I've lost you.
Okay, Anne is here, but she lost us, but you have the materials?
Yes, I got the materials. I
Okay,
have a picture of you.
and I am also present and I have my materials. Sally Carlin is unable to attend today's meeting, but we do have a quorum. With that, I will ask you if you have read and reviewed the board minutes of the meeting held on March 22nd, 2021. If you have received those minutes, I would like to entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Anne,
I
and I also approve. The minutes are approved. With that, we will move to Deb and the director's report.
Thank you. I'll start with the main library project just a little bit. There is a lot of painting going on right now at Main Library. So if you visited, you'd see some pretty colorful spaces. On the third floor of Main, the contractors are prepping for carpeting. So we're getting down to finishes on the third floor. Actually, we do have a lot of finishes with the wall coverings and restrooms, but carpeting should be going in before too much longer. Also restroom partitions, and I'm guessing fixtures should start going in this week. And in the annex, they're still framing out the stage space for the proscenium, and the proscenium is actually in right now. There's still plenty of scaffolding, but it's easier to begin to move through the space. The technology center windows and several of the courtyard windows are going in, so you can start to see the views opening up, and those, I think, just look really good. And the new electrical service is just about to go live. Masonry is ongoing, but we're starting to see large wall areas with the new brick, and we think it looks really good. That's going to be a challenge, a continuing challenge, I think, going forward, but they are making a lot of progress. In the patron engagement section of your report, our digital checkouts continue to hover in the high 30% range. They were nearly 37% last month of total circulation. And last year, as it's hard to forget, the world shut down in mid-March, and you'll start to see that transition reflected in our numbers. So in 2021, our total circulation is actually up 28% over last year because we were closed the second half of March. And reference questions are also up by 31%. We made a very fast pivot to digital services last year, but it still took us a few weeks to get going. And you may remember the quaintness of everybody saying, well, just stay home for a couple of weeks until the numbers flatten out. And that was just the beginning of what we've been in. In the fund reports, you'll see that we still have a healthy balance in the general fund and in reserves and rainy day and LERF. We are still going to need to spend a healthy amount to finish up the main library project, but we're in good shape, we think, to get through this year. Nancy and I keep talking about it and making sure that we really are where we want to be, but we are. There are two places where you'll see what's available in the construction funds. Fund 231 is the Community Foundation's gift fund, and we're just beginning to tap into that. The foundation advanced us half of the $10 million pledge, so we still have half of that to come. And further down the page, funds 401 and 403 are what's left of the $20 million in bonds and the city's $4 million contribution. So that's moving right down, but we're in the last, in many ways, the final months of the project. You also in this month have a first quarter expenditure comparison there at the end of the financial report. And I just wanted to point out a few things. Instead of the usual 6 payrolls in the first quarter, we processed the April 2nd pay in March. So that is going to account for most of the large increases you'll see in the salaries categories, because no, you didn't give me a 19% raise last year. You just didn't, and it's fine. So the maintenance line increased more than usual because we didn't have anyone in the assistant facilities manager position last year at this time. So we were saving that salary. And we also did a retirement payout, I think, in the first quarter. Our group insurance, it appears that claims are up for the first quarter. I think that some of that may have been from staff who postponed procedures last year due to the pandemic, and now we're playing catch up with a lot of appointments and a lot of things that people are doing that they just decided not to do last year. But in the supplies, the services, the capital expenses are all lower than this time last year. And overall, we spent over $200,000 less than last year in 2020 for this first quarter. And then next you have an annual development report from Lisa. It's a really good look at a year that pulls out some of the highlights and breaks down donor categories. And you'll see we were up in a good way from donations in the year before, from 2019. 2020 was up even in a pandemic. And then finally, I want to point out the legal memo that you have from the State Library outlining House Enrolled Act 1437 that involves electronic meetings and signatures. This arrived just kind of in time to put it in your packets last week. And Jim Masters has already been reviewing the contents. So the current executive order that we have now that we're operating under is in effect until April 30th. But once the governor removes the disaster emergency declaration, we can effectively put this hybrid in place that will allow half of you at a time to participate remotely in board meetings and still vote on items of business. So we think this is a good thing. This has been in the works and has been heavily promoted, I think, by many of the governmental units that are out there. So that's what I have this month. Do any of you have any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
And it's just a point of interest. Have we seen an uptick in libraries in minority areas of attendance and checkout things, or what does that look like?
It's hard to know. Both of our branches that serve more of the minority populations, Western and LaSalle, are doing pretty well.
Okay.
And are serving, but a lot of our patrons are also digital, and so it's really hard to know who's borrowing from us, in digital materials and what those demographics look like. 37% of everything we're doing in checkouts right now is in digital format. So we're getting ready to ramp up a lot of our in-person programs and outreach by the summer. I think the numbers are going to start to fall precipitously as we get closer to herd immunity. I just came out of a meeting with Dr. Einters, who talked about where we are with vaccination rates in the county. And, the numbers are climbing, but the vaccination rates are also looking pretty good. So we think we're on the right track. And yeah, we'll be doing more soon.
I was just curious. So are the hours the same in those two branches?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody is on the same hours. Well, I shouldn't say the same. The two larger branches, especially because they're standing in for some of Main Library, have longer hours. They're open 4 nights a week, and our other branches are only open 2 nights a week.
Okay.
But all of the branches, the smaller branches, are on the same hour schedule. So.
And with the tax deadline moved to May, are we seeing an uptick in people coming in to get their taxes, or are we doing that?
We're doing that through VITA, and Rana is on the call. Rana is one of our VITA volunteers. You want to talk a little bit about that, Rana, and because I think the numbers are really impressive, what the library's been able to do.
Sure. So far, with all of the VITA volunteers, we've done about 1,000 tax returns this tax season. And SJCPL VITA volunteers, there are 7 of us, we've done about 275 of those 1,000. And it's kind of slowing down right now. We're down to just 1 or 2 days a week of doing returns, and it's really slowing down. I think we've caught most of the people that we can, and some people have found other ways to get their tax returns done.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's good. Those are good numbers.
I think that the only other thing that I'd like to say is that Alan posed a question about HEA 1437, and we'll have a bit of a discussion about that in under other business under agenda item 10. Does that work for you, Alan?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So know that we will discuss it further, just in case.
Okay. I have a question too. In the patron engagement statistics report, page 32 of our materials. So would it be possible, when it's got circulation over time, that goes back, it shows like, goes from it goes from May 2020 to March 2021. Could I suggest that maybe we get maybe 13 months of, instead of getting like, this is, I don't know, 9 months or whatever it is, can we go back sort of like, it'd be helpful to see the circulation over time if we could go back at least a year, but maybe even a year and a month, so we could actually kind of see, if we're going to look at trends, we could actually see them over, so we could kind of see same time last year and that sort of thing. And then also, I think we had talked about, even though we're not getting the full reports anymore, that you give us that one page, kind of following up on the point that I think was made by Marvin. Could we see that one page too, that looks branch by branch and gives us the one page branch numbers? And we don't need that full report, but just to get a sense what's going on in the various branches, or something else. If you don't want to give us that full report, just something that kind of gives us a sense, maybe year over year, or whatever you think is an appropriate metrics, just so we can get a sense of what's going on in each of the various branches.
Sure. We are giving you a full year of data in those others. I know it's a little bit hard to read because of the way it displays, but you're getting like April through March. And we weren't able to do that before, but yes, we can. I'm looking at Jenny, and Jenny's nodding, so that's a good sign that we can do the 13 months of data. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. And Jenny, I don't know whether you want to speak to the other statistics. I suspect that's a lack of staffing right now.
Yeah, that was on our plan for this current report, but I think with a little bit of the turnover we had, it just required some diversion of staff time, and there's some a learning curve. So our plan is to add in a few branch specific statistics for the next report, and then just to kind of tweak it as we need from there. And this might be something I can follow up later, just to make sure I understand the 13-month, because you can't, so in the like fuchsia colored, purpley colored line is that would go from, so you're actually seeing 2 years worth of data. So that's the previous year. So if you're looking at March at the very end, the last month, the purple is what it was March 2020, and the blue line shows March 2021. So you can kind of compare the previous year across the board.
Is that the case for, and that's the same for that circulation over time? Let's see.
Oh, circulation over time. I'm sorry, Alan.
I'm just looking circulation over time, and that looks like, for example, overdrive. It looks like that starts May of 2020. It goes way up and down and whatever. That's what I'm really looking at. That one, I'm just curious as to what, if we wanted to see what it was in March, or even before pandemic, if you will, where were we? That would have been interesting to have gotten a sense. Really, to me, a part of the comparison really is, where were we before pandemic,
Mhm.
where are we now? So are we actually, as we're coming out of pandemic, how are we in comparison with, February of 2020 or January of 2020, before pre-pandemic? Then we can get a sense, what was overdrive, for example, before the pandemic? Then how did it spike? How did it come down? And where are we? That's what I'm trying to get a sense of.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry, I misunderstood. Yes, we can add that 13 months into that.
And maybe thinking out loud with you, as we get beyond that, maybe if we can try to figure out a way to kind of show, again, pre-pandemic. So I think that's more meaningful for us to see if we're getting back to some normal. I don't know if we want to call it normal, but if we're getting back to sort of pre-pandemic, where are we really going? Because it's hard for us to get a sense of what this all really means as you look back. Because you know what I'm saying? Because especially if you look at May of this year compared to May of last year, well, that was middle of the pandemic, but what was it 2 years ago, or whatever?
I
You
think
get a sense if
yeah.
we're going to build back up. That's all I'm saying.
so much has changed. I think it's going to be a really slow recovery, and it will be from a lot of libraries as people are hesitant to come into our buildings still,
Right.
And it's not that adults aren't eligible for the vaccine, but children aren't. And so we're not seeing a lot of kids in the buildings right now. And that's I think we'll have a real effort to start to really bring people back to our buildings. And we're not alone. Every library is doing the same thing to try and get people to come back, but in a safe way. We don't want people just to come back. We want to do it safely.
Agreed.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Deb, are you saying you didn't get the 19% raise we gave you last year?
I thought it was 25%.
I think they could have been.
You're seeing an extra payroll in there, which is why it looks so weird, but yeah.
That's her story and she's sticking to it.
I wouldn't.
Thank you.
Problem went away. I don't know what it was about.
Focus, gentlemen, we're focusing. With that, could I have a motion to approve the director's report?
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. With that, I'll call for the vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Ann,
aye.
and I also approve, so it is approved. Thank you very much. Could we hear about the library bill list and gift log?
Yes. Normally, when it's a larger bill list, I would tell you that there were investments in there making it larger. However, this bill list actually was $3,760,744.51. $2,667,000 of that were construction expenses. So just about $1 million, $1.6 million, which is a typical bill list for the library. And most of the vendors are ones that we pay regularly. Things do occur seasonally. One thing I'd like to point out to you at this point is we are renewing our discovery passes for museums and other venues that we allow patrons to check out. So on page 4 of 5, you'll see the Potawatomi Zoo, which we were anxious to get right before their reopening for the season. And then the following page, the History Museum and Wellfield Botanical Gardens. We still have Fernwood, and I can't remember, there is one other location and it's not coming to me right now, but we are waiting for invoices on that.
I was excited to hear about Wellfield because they're just advertising their new exhibit, Origami in the Park, a national exhibition. So that will be exciting.
Right. And I would be happy to answer any questions about any of the other invoices or claims.
Hearing None. Do I have a motion to approve the bill list?
So moved. I'll defer.
Second, whatever.
Second. Okay. I will call for the vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and I also approve. So the bill list is approved. Were there gift logs?
Yes, there was. We received, within this time period, $3,000. Two of those, I believe, went to the annual fund, and one was a sponsorship. $1,000 was a sponsorship for summer reading.
Would I have a move to approve acceptance of the gift log?
So move.
Second.
And seconds, okay. I will call, any questions? I will call for the vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and I also approve. So it is passed. Thank you. With that, we will move to personnel changes. Who will be addressing those?
I just wanted to point out that we have hired 2 key positions that are on tonight's agenda. Marissa Gebhardt's first day as communication manager is today. Marissa was in marketing and communications in the College of Science at Notre Dame for over 16 years. And most recently, she served as communications program director for the Office of Executive Vice President at Notre Dame. She holds a master's in nonprofit administration and a bachelor's in marketing and management. And we are delighted to have her join the library. We think she's going to be a great addition to the team. And she's got a lot of work ahead of her. We're in the middle of a lot of things right now. And then Eric Simon is going to be our new director of programming and education. And he also comes from the University of Notre Dame, where he's been the assistant director of the Center for Career Development. And in that role and others, he supported students through coaching, instruction, and program development. And he's had several years as a classroom teacher. So again, as we move deeper into lifelong learning and formal learning support, we think Eric's skills are going to be a great fit. And he'll join us on May 10th. So those are the 2 that I wanted to point out tonight.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody have any questions about personnel changes? Would we like to add anything from Human Resources?
Nope, Deb covered it, I think.
Okay, Kara, thank you.
Thanks.
That being said, I would certainly accept a motion to approve personnel changes.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I will call for the roll. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie, I'm not hearing you.
It looks like he dropped off. He might have had
He
issues.
froze, Christine.
Okay, we'll move on. Terry,
Yes.
Ann,
Aye.
and I also approve. We can get Augie's vote when he gets back on, but we do have a quorum with the other votes, so the personnel changes have been approved. Our next on the agenda are reports of special library board committees. As near as I know, there have been no special library board committee meetings, so we can move on to that. Next is our unfinished business. I believe we have no unfinished business to report. We can move right into new business. And with that, we can hear our very short list of change orders. Antonia, will you be discussing those?
Yes, I will.
Excellent, thank you.
So we have about 10 changes for this month. The first one is for Bully and Andrews. It's 6 additional weeks of additional CM services that brought our time from, I think it was 6/18 to 8/18, which is the current completion date. We are, as Deb was noting, still working through our masonry schedule. We should be able to get information on what full impact they have on our schedule once we get them down in with their install. Again, it's an ongoing process. We meet with them once a week on Mondays, and we are going to be getting an additional layout crew. So hopefully we'll be able to get the manpower that's needed in order to not have a very major impact. Again, still time, we still have a little bit more time in order to find out the full impact. That overall cost change is $67,547. For EJ White, we had them perform some temporary drainage for the third floor annex space in order to ensure that we would be able to work throughout the winter inside of that space without having water infiltration. That cost for managing that winter condition is $2,682. For golf, there is a correction to an error that I made. Rachel, thank you for pointing that out from the March change order for an increase of $1,750.20. And then their change order, number 10, is a deductive change order for $48,777. This included changes to the auditorium parapet for $2,618, a credit for the sound booth built-in field doors for $61,363, and the wall changes inside of the annex space for an increase of $9,968. For Herman and Getz, we had a couple of changes that resulted in an overall cost increase of $22,050. That included the electrical for the sound booths, the third floor annex AV for $12,112, a lighting adjustment from one of our RFIs for $1,484. We included 2 new terrace outlets for $904, and we had the electrical upgrades for $514. We used the allowance for this change for overall a net of 0, again for $22,050. After that, we have Larson Danielson. There was a hardware change for the aluminum door hardware. We changed it from the standard aluminum shade to a dark bronze. That overall cost impact was $8,458. Larson Danielson is going to be providing the sound booth doors for a cost of $37,500. So that was a very good choice to move contractors in order to actualize a little bit more additional savings for those soundproof built-in field rooms. And then we also had their cost to manage the winter conditions. That includes heating, general cleanup, etc., for the space throughout the winter for $22,046. Their overall cost impact was $68,004. For mechanical concepts, we had 2 winter condition changes. These are for the renovation space. We already had winter conditions costs built into Mechanical Concepts contract, but that was only for the annex space. So we had two changes, $976 and $1,327. And then we also had them furnish and install the diffusers and grills for the sound booth door for $8,694 for an overall cost impact of $10,997. For Midland, we had a credit from them for the insulation that was not needed at the auditorium parapet walls for an overall deductive change of $1,143. For Shamba, we carried the split cost for the monumental stair scaffolding for $1,328.25. A cost to provide sprinkler heads inside of the sound booths for $5,129. And then we also had them perform the water distribution for $1,475 for an overall cost increase of $5,275.75. We also have structural steel services. Before we touch on that, spray insulation, there was a correction to from the CRES group. Originally in our March change orders, we labeled them as the CRES group. They are a individual company called Spray Installations from the overall umbrella of the CRES group. So that was a name change to that, the change order that we issued to them. So again, no cost change for this current one, but I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that we did change their name from what was approved originally. For structural steel services, there were two changes. We had them, these are both labor changes. For masonry supports at the gallery for $1,502. And then they also provided the cladding support detail. This is again for labor only for $1,780 for overall cost increase of $3,282. Last, but certainly not least, is Zolkowski, where they had two changes. One for managing the winter conditions that included the heat and the tarps that were needed during the relatively interesting winter we had. And then we also had them provide a credit of $5,895. And that was because there was several areas that required blocking inside of the interior space of the annex that is no longer needed and is going to be furnished as drywall from Gulf. The managing the winter conditions that they had was for $11,047 for an overall cost increase of $5,152 for an overall change between all 10 contractors for $144,847.95. Does anyone have any questions?
Hearing none, let me reiterate what you have said, and thank you for keeping us updated on all these. I will read all the change orders and then I will entertain a motion to approve. So we have 12 change orders going in. The first is for Bully and Andrews for an increase of $67,547. The second, an increase to E.J. White of $2,682. The third is an adjustment, an increase to Goff for $1,750.20. And the next from Goff is a reduction in costs or credit to us of $48,777. The next is an increase order from Herman and Getz for $22,050. Sixth, we have Larson Danielson for an increase of $68,004. Seventh is Mechanical Concepts for an increase of $10,997. Next, we have Midland Engineering with a reduction of $1,143. Next, we have Shambaugh and Son for an increase of $5,275.75. 10th is Spray Insulation for an increase of $8,028. 11th is Structural Steel Services for an increase of $3,282. And last, as you said, but not least, is Olkowski Construction for an increase of $5,152 for total changes for our April report of $144,847.95. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
I have a question. Through all these changes, where are we tracking to budget? Are we still in line?
Yes, we are. Antonia's tracks it religiously, and we are still at about 350,000 left in contingency. So I think that puts us in a pretty good place compared to.
I've forgotten what our final number was in the budget. What, 36?
You know, there's the construction budget, there's the architectural budget, there's the furniture budget. So they're not all in the same place. Antonia is tracking the construction budget and Bully and Andrews piece of it. And the library tracks the architectural services budgets, a lot of the consulting budgets, the furniture. Next month, we're going to give you a package for computers and peripherals. But we're probably sitting, if I had to guess, between 39 million and 40 million right now, total.
People ask the question, and I can't remember big numbers very well.
It changes too. But we're on track. It's been sitting where it's been sitting for a while now, and construction wise, we're good.
And time wise?
Time wise, Antonia, do you want to speak to time wise? Can I put you on the spot?
Absolutely. I was trying to share that information at the start of my discussion. This has to do primarily with the masonry. We wind up not getting the approval for the mason to order their material much later than what we anticipated in our initial schedule, which then pushed all of the subsequent work back. We are able to get our final delivery. We have one big delivery coming up by the end of this month on the 30th for granite. We have all of the cast stone. We have the brick as well. The granite is what everything sits on top of, which kind of stops us from building up on these areas. And then we also have another delivery after that for the remainder of the granite in the following week on at the very latest, the week of May 10th. With that being said, having that material on site, because originally we were intending on starting the masonry work back in November of 2020. It kind of stopped us from getting the other workers involved. So one of the things that we wind up having to do is have to changing the sequence of their work, trying to get those areas that did not have granite underneath them, supporting them, installed, which is some of the areas that you have been seeing inside the drone photos. And then we also tried to get the Midland engineering done as soon as possible for temping in those spaces. And then we also had blocking and windows get installed before the mason as well, in order to try to negate any of the negative impact towards the interior of the building. The masonry has about a 4 to 6 month time frame for us to complete everything. And then we also need to, after we have the mason out of certain areas, we'll be able to install the landscaping. And after the landscaping is done, we'll be able to, or after the mason is out of those areas, we'll be able to finalize the roof as well. So we are currently tracking for an overall time impact of an additional 6 weeks. So we're looking at about October for the completion of our work, because again, we have to make sure that after the masons are done, we have to get the finalized roof tied in, and then also the landscaping all installed.
Is there any plan to attempt to recover any of the lost time?
We are in the process of trying to recover that lost time, which is the reason why we are working through the schedule and trying to assist Larson Zolkowski in finding other means in order to get the work done without having a major cost impact to the owner.
Thank you.
Thanks, Antonia. That was.
So again, a work in progress here, guys. I don't want to speak gloom and doom. I want to make sure that we are looking at a realistic picture as to what the overall schedule is. And again, we're still working through those details with Zolkowski.
Thank you. Any other questions? I just got a note that my internet is unstable. I think it has an hour limit on me. So anyway,
So a minute. I'm
any,
sorry. Oh, wait.
go ahead.
No, so then, Anthony, I assume we can kind of anticipate then, since the Booley and Andrews was a six week adjustment, wasn't that taking them through August? So now you're saying it's probably going to be October, so we're probably going to be seeing another 6 weeks for them?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Alan.
I'm
Other
sorry.
questions? No, that's good. Thank you. Other questions? With that, let me call for a vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
thank you. Terry? Anne?
Aye.
And I also approve. With that, the change orders are approved. Next on our agenda is the St. Joseph County Public Library Collection Development Policy. And there are some policy revisions that I think that Deb was going to address.
I'm going to start, and then Sarah, I think, is going to maybe jump in. So as you know, the collection, or as this says, the collection development team has been working on an updated version of our policy. We have not updated it in several years, and it is really overdue. So this is a stronger statement for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I think is going to serve us well in the future. It also lays out procedures for how we handle challenges to materials. And we have always had these things in place, but they were procedural and really not part of policy. And now this formalizes it. There've been a lot of recent challenges in Indiana, and we kind of wanted to be prepared. So this takes a lot of ALA statements and incorporates them into what we've already been doing in terms of how we select materials. So Sarah, do you want to jump in there?
That was great. The only thing
I didn't
to
mean to
add
steal
is,
your thunder.
no, that was perfect. Much better than I would have done. The only thing I would add is that we just, freshened it up a little bit and made it more aligned with how we write areas of the policy. So it was just, not only was it an equity, diversity, inclusion, but it was just a nice, double touch of it and getting it in the 21st century. We also referred to digital materials, which we didn't really address in the previous version. So that was a nice way of keeping it up to date.
Are there other questions about the policy revisions? It really was to improve our wording and to be current with issues of diversity and keeping our collection up to date. Any other questions?
I have a couple. Deb, you mentioned, I think you said challenges state. Are these challenges to censorship type issues, or what were you referring to?
Yeah, libraries have always had reconsideration policies where if a patron decides to challenge something that we've bought for any number of reasons, we have a response that we go through and a procedure that we go through to evaluate the material. We just wanted to formalize that because, again, in this day and age, there are more challenges. I think we have not gotten them.
That was my next question. Are we specifically targeted by anything at this point?
Not at this point, but other libraries in Indiana have been by some groups that are organized. And so we just wanted to have everything in place in case that would happen. I think, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Dave said we had maybe one challenge over the last couple of years, and it was—
Yeah, we really don't get many at all. We get once every few years. I think when Rana was the manager of that department, she got a few more, but it's never been heavy at our library, knock wood.
A lot of times we can solve it with just a conversation, to explain why we bought something or walk the patron through the work, and we buy on the merit of the whole work and not certain passages. So yeah, we've got it in place now.
I had just read somewhere, and this is probably old news, but that the most censored book in high school has traditionally been Catcher in the Rye. And the most required reading in high schools has been Catcher in the Rye.
There are lots and lots of classics that get challenges still, and you find them all over the place. So Harry Potter was big for a while when that first came out. So
thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? With that, could I entertain a motion to approve the collection development policy amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Marvin?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Augie?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And I also approve, so that motion is passed. Next, we will move to the board acceptance of grants. ALA Libraries Transforming Community Grant, funding for mental health resources at North Liberty and Lakeville. Deb or Lisa?
Lisa, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, the American Library Association, they recently awarded SJCPL with a $3,000 grant. It's Libraries Transforming Communities, focused on small and rural libraries. And the grant will be used at our North Liberty and Lakeville branches, and they will be providing their communities with mental health resources. Specifically, we're hosting a speaker, donating mental wellness collection to a local high school, and hosting a book club on the topic of everyday kindness, and also offering a free yoga or mindfulness class.
Excellent. Questions for Lisa? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve acceptance of the ALA Libraries Transforming Communities Grant?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All right, hearing none, I will call for the vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and I also approve, so it is passed. And we want to thank you, Lisa, for your pursuit of those grants. It's always been something that I've wanted the library to do, having been a grant writer in my life. And I think you're doing a great job. Thank you. All right. Next
Hey,
we have,
Christine,
yes.
we missed agenda item 9C on the hotspot laptop checkout.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you for catching that. I moved right. I just wanted to hear Lisa. Could we hear about the laptop hotspot to checkout? Approval of circulation policies related to new service. Deb and Lisa.
You get to hear Lisa again because she's.
I had her name on here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Lisa.
We're proposing the circulation of laptop hotspot kits at our neighborhood and community library branches. And this supports our ongoing digital equity efforts to provide the community with basic convenient access to digital resources. And this issue has become even more important during the pandemic. So laptops and hotspots for checkout have been requested by our patrons, and they've expressed needing them for completion of online social service documents. We would circulate them at River Park, Tut, Western, LaSalle, North Liberty, and Lakeville. This is where we see a high need population that lacks at-home internet access. The loan rules include circulating them to adults and teen non-reciprocal patrons with a 1-week checkout, no rental fees, $5 a day in fines, a 1-day hold period, and no renewals.
Are there questions about that wonderful service?
Yes. How their access then to the internet is through a cellular provider or through our local Wi-Fi, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's correct. It's through T-Mobile.
Okay.
So we subscribe to a service plan for
Gotcha.
those.
Good.
And then are these things we already own, or what's the budget for these kits and things?
So the laptops would be between, the ones we were looking at were between $219 and $349. So that's a one-time cost. And then the hotspots, $63 as a one-time cost. And then the service plan is $10 a month. So for the kit up front, we would be paying for 14 kits is what we're planning on. We'd be paying between $4,000 and $6,000. And then for all of the kits and the service plan, it would be $1,600 a year ongoing.
This is a really cost-effective way to get into this. And I think with the cost of the laptops that they've found, even if something takes some damage or we have something that's on return, we're not out a significant amount of money. So this is, as Lisa said, people have been requesting this and we've been looking at ways to do it in a really cost-effective way. And I think they found it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great project. It may very well be something that that once we implement it, there may be an underwriter out there that might be a great opportunity for somebody to come in and underwrite this for us at some point. So that may be an opportunity for us if you all may want to consider that. I think it's great though.
With this connectivity, there's the word connectivity. Could we gain a large savings by going to something simple like Chromebooks to check out? Just a thought.
I'm not sure. I had the IT department kind of look into the best laptops for patron use. Chromebooks did not come up as an option.
They're a little limiting, I think. And they're great for students to plug in and do their homework but they're a little limiting, I think, for people who are, for what we're doing here.
They're also hard to find right now, I think. They've been seriously
Yeah.
back ordered from schools.
Yeah, the
And
schools are all over it.
I'll say it's my experience that they're not even great for students. The quality is just not great.
I'll retract my question.
You speak from experience, Anne.
Not used one.
So motion, do I hear a motion to approve the laptop hotspot to checkout?
So moved.
Move. Second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, with that, I will call for a vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and I also approve, so that is passed. Well, we'll move on to E since we've already discussed D. Do I hear a motion to approve library board resolution to declare excess withdrawn library materials?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second to sell materials to Friends of the St. Joseph County Public Library for their book sales for the sum of $1, excluding items selected by the library staff for sales and events. Any further discussion? Oh, and also computer equipment declared as excess. Okay. Any further discussion? I will call for the vote. Marvin?
On behalf of Christine, aye.
Thank you. Alan?
Aye.
Augie?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And I also approve, so that is, that motion is passed. Next, for other business, we were talking about some discussion about HEA 1437 in the possible occurrence that the governor removes our ability to meet electronically. We would like to come up with a plan knowing that we will be able to continue our business. So I would like to put the discussion first to Jim and then to Alan about this HEA 1437. James?
I'm here.
Okay.
There is a proposal to adopt a resolution to amend the bylaws to allow participation electronically based on what you're referring to as HEA 1437. That's House Enrolled Act that was just passed and signed by the governor, and would allow a change in the current law. If you recall, we had some discussion early on. Under current law, members can participate electronically but can't vote and do not count towards the quorum. So that law was changed to now allow members to participate electronically, and their participation counts towards a quorum. There are some limits. No more than 3 members of this board would be able to participate electronically at any one time. The law would still require a majority of the members to participate by being physically present. So the numbers work out. That it would be 4 would have to be physically present. That would allow up to 3 members to participate electronically. There's also a number of other requirements we'd have to consider. The statute allows a member to participate electronically 2 times consecutively, and then you'd have to participate in person 1 time, and then you could participate electronically 2 more times, and then you have to come back and participate by being physically present. By my count, that works out to no more than 4 meetings electronically a year when we meet once a month.
But not consecutively, if I hear you correct.
but not consecutively. It'd be 2 months, and then a third you'd have to be physically present, or you could participate, but your participation wouldn't count. And it would count as an absence from attendance. And then 2 months where you could participate electronically, and then the same thing. You'd have to participate in person on the third month, or again, you can be present, but you're not going to count towards quorum. You can't vote. And technically, I think that means you also missed the meeting. And we do have a requirement that you have to make a certain number of meetings out of the year to stay on the board. Alan had proposed a resolution to essentially adopt the requirements of House and Road Act 1437 and place this in effect now in the event the governor lifts the emergency order that's in effect through April 30th. I will call your attention to the fact that the library bylaws say that for any amendment to the bylaws, you're required to be provided with 14 days prior notice, or there has to be unanimous vote of all 7 members of the board present at a public meeting. None of you are present at a public meeting right now.
Yeah, I mean, my question is that I think we're currently operating under this pandemic emergency declaration, and that lasts until April 30th right now, is my understanding. At least that's what the informational legal memo on page 43 of our packet indicates that. So my question is, if the governor doesn't extend this to a period that includes our board meeting date in May, that would require us to meet in person in May. And my question is, I mean, I think I personally would be in favor.
Can I finish, Alan? Let me, because maybe I'm getting to the point that addresses what you're raising. The other facet of the governor's orders that still remains in effect is that public meetings that are conducted electronically under the governor's emergency orders, quote, should be limited to only essential matters critical to the operations of government.
All right.
Or the entity, end quote. And I don't think amending the bylaws right now is critical to your operations. But let me suggest this. Let's put together the proposed amendment, have it on the agenda for the May meeting. Should the governor lift the emergency order April 30th, you need 4 people present. That's all, to be able to conduct business. And the rest of you could participate electronically, and we could pass the resolution and make the amendment then. What do you think?
And you need 4 people anyway, even if we do this. So your point is, as long as, so your point is, ideally everybody will come to the May meeting if we're meeting in person. But if we've got some people, in fact, I'm just curious, do we have board members, not to put anybody on the spot, I mean, I'd be willing to go back at this point in a socially distanced, in-person board meeting. Are people still hesitant? I mean, most of us have been vaccinated. Augie's got his thing on the back behind them there, really encouraging us to make sure that he says it's not an option there. But no, but are we willing to come together now, socially distanced in a meeting at the end of May if we need to do that?
I would.
Well, I could call the same vote and you could say yes or no, whether you would be willing and able to attend a May meeting. How about that?
Yeah.
Marvin, would you be willing and able to come to a May meeting in person?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Augie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Anne?
I'm willing, but I'm not sure at that point I'll be able because
Okay.
we'll still be here.
Okay, so you're a maybe. I am a yes, and I'm not going to assume for Sally, but since she has to work in the school system, I think she's accustomed to going out of her home, and
Okay.
she likely would be able to. So as many as 6 of 7 would be able to attend in person for the May 28th meeting.
So then basically then, am I correct, Jim, that what we would need here, do we need both a amendment to the bylaws? Now, do we need an actual policy too for the May meeting?
Well, yeah, because
Or use the bylaw written policy?
simply adopting the statute isn't going to be sufficient. There are some requirements that you have to adopt
Right.
under that statute. So you can't just adopt a resolution incorporating the statute. The point being that if the governor's order goes in, if the governor's order is lifted and you have to have a meeting, you have to have 4 members present, even if you were to adopt this resolution today.
Right.
You'd still have to have 4 members present at that meeting.
Right.
So you're still going to have a quorum to conduct business in present. And that's the other key thing. There's a differentiation under this statute between being physically present and being present for the meeting. And we're going to have to work through that because it's also going to change several other provisions of I'm looking at the bylaws. I've been looking at them since I was told about this about an hour before the meeting. You know, we're going to have to amend a couple other provisions of the bylaws that have to do with a quorum and how many members have to be present and how you call the vote, because that statute also says you have to conduct a roll call vote if you have any members participating electronically. So you can't just raise your hands like we've been doing in the past when we met in person. So there's a number of things that have to be changed to coordinate this statute.
We have been doing roll call votes for every agenda item.
This
At
way,
least-
but when we met in person, you did.
Right, exactly. When we met in person, we did not. So that would have to change. We would add that.
So I think Alan's point is well taken that
Yes.
this board should consider adopting a resolution to amend the bylaws at the next meeting.
Well, so should
To
we
amend the bylaws to incorporate the provisions of HEA 1437. So now you'll all have 14 days advance notice of the proposed amendment.
So Jim, do you think you have to, does this give you, and I mean, not putting you on the spot, but if we ask you now to have something available in 2 weeks to circulate, so we'll have 14 days notice so that we could do it at our May 24th meeting, is that something that's you?
Alan, if I got 2 weeks notice of anything, I got plenty of time to get it done.
So then, might I suggest then that we go ahead and plan on meeting in person May 24th, because if we do that, then we can go ahead at least and adopt this, because it sounds like Jim is saying that we really ought to meet in person if we're going to make this change, because right now we're operating under the extraordinary powers, and it may not be that this is really an appropriate measure for a meeting by Zoom. Am I right, Jim? So if we want to try to do this in May, we ought to plan on meeting face to face in May?
I think that's consistent with the idea that you take limited action during these Zoom meetings, primarily because the public isn't participating or has the opportunity to participate in the same manner as if the meeting was held in person.
And if Ann needs to, I mean, Ann's still out of town, so as long as we have a quorum, the president, Ann can still participate, she just won't be able to vote on this particular, on things for that meeting, I guess.
That would be correct until you adopt the resolution. That's right.
Right.
So if we adopted the resolution early in the meeting, she could vote on other agenda items.
You could come in, sure.
Yes,
You get
okay.
it. You could even call a special meeting ahead of the meeting to adopt it.
There you go.
It
If
could
you
be
wanna
the
do that.
pre-meeting meeting. Okay,
Well, call a special meeting and start at 4:15 and have the regular meeting start at 4:30.
mm-hmm.
Okay,
Think about it.
we can all go home then. Or three of us can go. Two of us.
No.
Yeah, then you all go, then three
don't
of you
get to-
go back home and do it on TV,
You
do it
can't.
on the screen.
No travel time allowed. Deb, does that sound reasonable that we could put something together for May 24th?
Yep, I think that's fine. And that was my original intention anyway, is that we'd have it for you by May, since we just got it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That
Right
sounds-
before, just in time to put it in your packets, really.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, well then, I don't think we need to vote on that. We'll just plan on that, okay? All right.
Well, I think you should put on the minutes that there's been a resolution made to amend the bylaws,
Okay,
and that somebody ought to make a motion
okay,
to address the amendment and vote on it at the May meeting and schedule a special meeting for that purpose.
okay. Alan, can I ask you
Yeah.
to make that motion?
Yeah, I would like to move that the library amend the bylaws to permit members of the library board who are not physically present at a meeting of our board to participate by electronic means of communication in accordance with House Enrolled Act 1437. And if we consider that bylaw amendment at our next meeting, at a special meeting to be called prior to our next meeting on May 24th.
Do I hear a second to the motion?
Second,
Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. Marvin,
aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Augie,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and I also approve. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alan and Jim, for the work that you've put in on this. Thank you. Next, we have a hearing of visitors. Do we have any visitors?
I'm sorry, Christine, we might have had another item of other business.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is there another item of other business?
Yeah, I wanted to, I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is we bought a house and we sold our house. The bad news is it unfortunately is not in the St. Joseph County Public Library District. So it's actually in Elkhart County that we bought. And so unfortunately, by our bylaws, I am going to have to, I think, resign from the board effective when we are no longer resident in St. Joe County, which will be probably sometime in June.
That is more bad news than good news. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that right now. I don't know about replacing board members midterm. So Deb, do you or Jim?
We've had to do that before. It's rare and we're really gonna miss Augie, but yeah, I'd be happy to confer with you.
Okay, thank you.
I think we just need to ask the appointing authority to make an appointment to someone who would fill out Augie's term, and then they'd start again.
Is Notre Dame your appointing authority?
Oh, no, St. Joe County Council.
St. Joe County Council. Okay, okay. All right. All right. Well, Deb will discuss this further, but you will be here for the main meeting.
I will be, and Jim, officially, how does that work? If we no longer own our home in St. Joe County, does that happen immediately? I would assume it does.
Well, it's when you no longer reside within the district.
Yeah, and technically that would be when we close on the house that we just sold. So, which will be the first week of June, so far as we know. So yes, I'll be at the May meeting, but then not at the June meeting.
Well, at least you'll get one more thing of cookies though, so that's good.
That's right.
The cookies and coffee, you see that?
You know, it was, we had no intention of you know, Elkhart County wasn't the target, but as we said, with this real estate market the way it is, it's what was available. And the really sad thing is it's probably literally less than 1/4 of a mile from Ash Road. So it's just barely over the line, but it is over the line. So.
Well, Augie, you were the only other person on the board with a sense of humor almost as twisted as mine. I'm going to miss that.
We're going to miss so many things about you, and not only that, but also your very wonderful working on board or on executive director evaluation. So that's something you're going to have to train your replacement on.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a big part of the many contributions that you've done for us. We'll miss you.
Here, here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Again, Deb, we'll talk about it, but does Augie have to put something in writing to notify us?
You should probably do a letter of resignation, Augie. I think when the last person I remember who did for exactly this reason was Becky Fisher, who moved out of district and I think gave us a letter of resignation. So when it comes that time, but we'll start working on something. So.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Hey, I got one more meeting. Let's not go there yet.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We just say adieu for now.
You still have your gold card.
I probably have to give that up.
No, you get to keep that.
You get to keep your gold card.
Yeah.
That's nice. Okay, now, do we have any visitors present? Rachel? Are there any?
We do have one.
Okay. This is the time where members of the public are invited to address the library board. So we have one visitor and you are allowed 3 minutes to discuss whatever your issue is. Please identify yourself, your issue, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Erin Patskowski, lifelong patron of St. Joe County Public Library. Primarily, I go to Center Township. I live about a 1/4 mile from there. And there are 2 main things I'd like to discuss today. The first of which is Studio 304. I'm a more recent patron of there, and I've been digitalizing VHSs, going through that process. I will say Jen that you have over there is amazing. Do not let her leave. But the main things over there that I have concerns about are updated training material. I used to work at Hollywood Studios at Disney in Orlando in a Disney Learning Center, which is very similar to Studio 304. So I'm familiar with the process and training individuals, and I do see a need there for updated material, and Jen has said that herself. They have a few things laying out, but they're under VCRs, they're not front and center. So you really do have to pull the staff to help you a lot. And sometimes, you know, there are several people in there, so you might have to wait a bit. The other thing in there are about wiping the computers. So this is something, again, in my experience, we did on a nightly basis, just based on internet browsing, but also the different programs that are used. And I've had iMovie crash on me several times. And when I go back in, I realize there are documents and movies and projects in there for months prior. And I just don't think that it should be maintained on the computers as long as they are. So it might be contributing to them crashing. So otherwise, thank you very much for everything you've invested in Studio 304. If you can get a 3.5-inch disc reader, I would be so happy, but otherwise you've got everything. And the second topic to cover is the document scanners that all of the branches have. So I am paperless personally and professionally. I rely on those. And up until COVID, we could use them no problem. And now I'm told I have to hand off my personal documents, which are sometimes health documents or my tax paperwork, to somebody on the other side. And the reason of COVID isn't really relevant, because if I can touch everything in Studio 304, why can't I touch a document scanner? It doesn't quite match up. If there's another reason, I could maybe understand it, but having used it for several years at Center Township, I don't see it being used as often as other equipment like the computers in the branches. I would like to make a request to have those returned back so I don't have to hand over my taxes and other things to somebody else to scan. That is it. I've learned a lot today and it was great to see you all.
Well, thank you. And thank you for mentioning these things. I always appreciate it when a member of the public comes to our meetings and hears about all the wonderful things we're doing. And I do thank you for your recommendations, and I think it will be discussed on a staff level. So
I appreciate it. I'm on the South Bend Common Council Park Committee as well, so I understand having to take feedback, and I just, you don't know there's a problem unless we come and tell you. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience to to wait till the complete end of the meeting to get to talk, but thanks.
All right. Well, I thank you. Moving from that, we will move to news and education items. Anything you want to highlight?
I don't think I've had anything, nothing that we haven't already covered in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. With that, I will just say the next library board meeting will be at Brown, or what we call it, our branch, our Keller Park branch, at 4:15 on Monday, May 24th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I will call for a roll. Marvin?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Augie?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
I also approve. With that, the meeting is adjourned. We will do our Zoom wave goodbye. And we'll see you next month, if not sooner. Thank you all for coming.